Gilg Jew, Gilg J as Gilg Nerach.
Sé Claare Gael viscoil tire carnish, a smilia mosaltige. My name is Robert Cutting-Carswell, or Robert a Carslach.
Have you ever had tell of old Bobby Bob?
And I'd like to welcome you to Claare Gael, with part of it in the English language, as leis Perchi Sagilg, and with part of it in the Manx Gaelic, Chinya Namera, the mother tongue of Ellen Vanning, the Isle of Man. As Banachtan de Drish. The final part of Mannin Veg Veen, a poetical sketch of the Isle of Man, the 1906 poem by William Gell, appeared in the Isle of Man Examiner on the 2nd of June 1906. Underneath it says, "This poem will be issued in book form within a few days." Ten nasgiel sy tjaglum je over na breirich en Grimm ljouwer de loer as befem voor de erschacht en redig or kionori, te enmesich a nies there as a ven. First of all, a walk to the summit of Criggin Key with Gareth Bonello, the Welsh singer who performs under the name The Gentle Good. Tawys gees jachrish Radio Vanning Stasiwn en Asiwn, Viscoller skelia maag by Dúlish, Ellen Vannin.
Esgair pen y garreg, lan at y ffrif, heibio'r hen chwarelin, tasgu o'r prif, mwydro dros moliniau, at y copa yw'r hynt, a'r crigyn sy'n cyfarth yn anedd y gwynt. Elan wrth yng nghefn, gwyo ymlaen, cyfaill a chyd ymaith ar ddol drymau'r wain, weithiau'n gwisgo cwmwl rhag olwg y byd, a weithiau mewn heilwen yn ddedwydd i gyd, a weithiau mewn heilwen yn ddedwydd i gyd. Cymer o fal gyda'r llwybren, croesi ar y rhos. Ceith dywys at yr afon, eith golli yn y gysur ac ystyr o'r tîr. Wrth syllu drwy'r oesoedd o ben crigyn ci. Wrth syllu drwy'r oesoedd o ben crigyn ci.
Criggan Key, The Dog Peak, written and performed by the gentle good Gareth Bonello, about the Elenydd, which rises up between the valleys of the Eilean and the Wye. William Gell's poem appeared in 9 parts, and in the book these parts are called cantos, and this, the final one, dubbed Canto IX in the book, is also given a title in the book which didn't appear in the newspaper, the Rushen Epic, and it starts with a standalone tribute in praise of Castle Rushen. How Mannin's limestone stands today, well nigh impervious to decay, while baser fabrics melt away. William Gell calls the Scandinavian influence Danish, well, as does William Gell in 1907 in writing in the national anthem of Orry the Dane, although actually Godred Crovan was a product of several generations of settlement in the Western Isles of Scotland with ancestry from what is now Norway. William Gell links folklore and history. When might was right by force of arms, and nations dwelt midst rude alarms, the warlike Dane saw Mannin's charms. This insulated battlefield, so oft by silvery mists concealed, was to his ardent gaze revealed. In other words, Orry's acute vision penetrated even Manannan's cloak. Cuirt de rauwe I stairs a wen becher de gelia, und shan weg wach, jorish traine mare. As we nie stair golmach dag lei, les je doen as een rimlach egge, as we giestach. La de rauwe in de haai, les je klat jiest die egge, as we jeans jags en ustje clear, as we na haai, as we na haai. Voor jere schies, les je rimlach as grunt en ustje, as treir en e tar nisi, chure, lie beg albanach woer een doen. As doort en lie beg albanach rish. Ye ster, eishrum, lig sermi. Genei yeast riech mish, ach prins for obvious. Creen foos Dutch weidens, me vissu cormi gus de talu. Gabi blas my Masor, corb me back stjachs en ustjurish, as lig thou amel ter soel. Wel, doort en ye ster. Genel femer William vogel gush, no de wat uw lord, baird out de moer ligge dat amel ter soel. Esch, hugge bakke stjachs en ustje clear. 'Tis a dreadfully sick creature I am. Well, not a promising premise, I suppose, for what is actually a lovely song by Deirdre and Ella McGrory, sisters from the Inishowen Peninsula in Donegal. Ismay and Creature Ching Tolgach.
Ismay and Creature Ching Tolgach, Aaron Bach and Shuta. Neil Daniel, lay me free and then go no go mal. The muse break queer, bas couple of gums.
The voice of Deirdre McGrory and the piano of her sister Ella, who also supplied the melody for those lyrics by Sean McInmurga and Pádraig O'Doherty. Ren na lie beg Albanach sink Gael gus a grunt, as for Gael lor gliawr folla na chul. Jiri an is ders hired the value gus an venegas a chan weg boch. Wel, mwyn je shesha na vela we herten beg Jew. Chanel, dwrt yn dynnu. Os sien na greu, dy ren mi terthen lie beg Albanach, ach no de dote de rawi na frins for obvious, ren mi lig a sairish. Na ren o giri beg dwrt y ben chesha. Ren, dwrt yn dynnu, creu lies yn giri Och, nee, dwrt y ben chesha. As teich o aglach de weg de kinjach se chan weg woch, sio bis sorrel chorach. Cart de mai dut creu de balien bwen weg. Imi rish as cor mer, instead of elshin giri bwen weg. Jaren de jinne cor lied shendun. As tre haie back, glass as bui van boer, as for de vai beich och clear. Maar so ben a jade when shenrish tamelt beg. A connoisseur of gems was he, and vowed his shield's device should be this emerald on an azure sea. And wily too, this warlike Dane, a bloodless victory to gain, quietly landed at the Len. Well, there's the lane, I suppose. There's a footnote about the Lens being in the north of the island, but here William Gell's account is at odds with the description given in the Chronicles of the Kings of Man and the Isles. Yes, Orry, or Godred Crovan, landed at the Len, but that wasn't a victory, bloodless or otherwise. The Chronicles' computation of dates is slightly out, so just adjusting that, it tells us that in the year 1079, Godred Crovan collected a number of ships and came to Man. He gave battle to the natives, but was defeated and forced to fly. Again he assembled an army and a fleet, came to Man, encountered the Manxmen, was defeated and put to flight. Well, he assembled that invasion force in his native Isla, with followers of the Scandinavian hegemony who had settled in the Scottish Western Isles. And that's part of a Breton waltz called Tiphaine, a lady of their acquaintance perhaps, and the band was Startigen, first formed in their Diwan Breton Medium Secondary School in Claare. Stasiwn yn asiwn sy'n dy jarw radio fanim. A si Claare na Gael fy sgol yr sgeiliamach ag yn tre ton, mer yn pyn Robert Cutting Corswell, Robert y Corslach.
Did the other hear tell of old Bobby Bob?
Ta ceir dy chlas yn Claare na Gael rhys rhys siacht yn lwg gigol yr sgeiliamach, trwyd unedeg y radio faning as yn chraman eis rhys. Ach, ta tasje de irwyn na Claare mor podcast nies, fys rach yn nasty trwyd unedeg y radio faning, na trwyd yn reich de podcast ed, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Audible, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, na Alexa. Godred Crovan's force twice tried landing at the Len, but was twice repulsed. It was only on his third attempt, this time coming into Ramsey Bay and hiding 300 warriors on Sky Hill, who suddenly rose up and turned the battle, and it was because of that his invasion plan succeeded. However, when the Manx fighters found they were trapped between the 300 warriors who'd risen up out of hiding and the rising tide which was filling the bed of the Sulby River, the chronicle tells us, those who remained, with piteous cries, begged of Godred to spare their lives. Godred, yielding to feelings of mercy, and moved with compassion for their misfortune, for he'd been brought up amongst them for some time, recalled his army, and forbade further pursuit. And so William Gell is correct to continue. No lives were uselessly destroyed, and thus the warlike Dane enjoyed the sweets of conquest unalloyed. The conqueror, then quickly crowned, his new-found realm he quickly found was older than the realms around. Esh dorte, o rynje my vis dunje tau, na liebeg albanach na mara brau. Emmes ta ven, as burach ish, viskiri shen, nach wel me wish. Esh van na liebeg albanach chit as gamelt huggers dorte, nish esh, kir tau giri. O dorten dunje tau tigel treren mi turten u, tam a ven hesje gred a lisen ver chor giri or sonredrach. Chanelli giri bech en a sojas a chan weg vach, as barely bwen. Imi rood de valje door te liebeg albanach, slie shen hanna. Maar zo haien dunje de valje, as hooray ons in a jen chan weg vach, bwen weg. As van ben hesje en a saai bink grosh en doris. As gawi lau, as doortirish, tarstjach onji, as gin na wel show ridden achvold en a share. Maar zo hired stjach on. As ons shen wat thai beg, as shamer liabach beg galen on, as shamer early, as shamer store be. The name Nova Scotia shows the major heritage of that part of Canada, including a Gaelic, the Scottish Gaelic language. Rachel Walker and Aaron Jones here performed the song An Inish Eye, the Fortunate Island, and this was written by Angus MacLellan, who was born in 1878 in Margaree in Cape Breton in Nova Scotia. Rachel Walker singing with Aaron Jones on that song written by Angus Angus MacLellan. And the Inish Eye was the Fortunate Isle of Margaree itself, and Angus MacLellan was the Margaree Island lighthouse keeper in Cape Breton. He wrote many songs and poems in Gaelic, the Scottish Gaelic. But the chulliu horse de chuj high on. Les chuj jaren as chuj frash jen chaint share. As chow chulu jay, wa close beg les kiarken as tunnagan on, as gere beg wa ledden de lodrian glada as mess. Jich door de went jesje, na wel shen jesh. Te doorten dunje, de gin show ach tannachten on, bimmage jint boeach de mai. Nimmage fedden maag me gaan shen door de went jesje. As lurg lunje mai, hired de lie. Maar so wat de chuljurid golde mai rishachten riske gish. Tred door te wen jesje. Kjaartne shesh, gunje shesje. Ten buen sho ro chont ons riechid, as ten close as a gera gebeg. Tammy smun in de lizige lie beg albanach, vetten tai smoe erne son. Balium de moer bege ons kastjel moer klei, maar so immigus en easteders nie akkoord on kastjel. O, me wen jesje wien, dorten dunje, smai de loert en wen, krijg han version giri kastjel. William Gell is establishing Man as an ancient kingdom at a time when surrounding areas were in a state of flux. They weren't the realms they subsequently became. As they developed, they flexed their muscles, so whoever might be the rulers of Man, those rulers had to balance the competing claims for homage, depending who was in the ascendancy at any one time. In fact, William Gell takes it right back to the beginning now. At the 440th year, these old-time dates are never clear, reigned Mannin Veg Veen, after whom, through 5 centuries down, some scores or more of less renown successively have held the crown. And yet they were a motley lot. Northumbrian, Scandinavian, Scot, ruled for a time this favoured spot. In fact, 'tis thus the record stands. The sovereignty of these fair lands perpetually was changing hands. A song now by Richard Trethewey from Cornwall, who was here for some of Uncroniac recently before spending time on the calf. And this is his song, The Lonesome Track.
1, 2, 3.
Lonesome track, if you go there you might not come back again. Lonesome track, the lonesome track, if you go there you might not come back. On the moonless night the boats creep into land, their cargo hidden within. Some come round along the shore, caves and tunnels and secret doors. The lonesome track, if you go there you might not come back again. Lonesome track, the lonesome track, if you go there you might not come back. If you're travelling after dark, don't go alone, but if you are, keep your wits, keep moving on, there's eyes are watching you all along. The lonesome track, if you go there you might not come back again. Lonesome track, the lonesome track, if you go there you might not come back. Village where oceans were. Mountains on the estuary, the river roads that lead to sea. The lonesome track, if you go there you might not come back again. Lonesome track, the lonesome track, if you go there you might not come back. The wheels go down the lonesome track. got down in the lumps today, be sure to go there, you might come back. If you got down in the lumps today, you better go there, you might not come back.
The Lonesome Track, Richard Trethewey's song about the road between Truro and Malpass, much used by smugglers carrying their smuggled goods that way, and they were beset by highway robbers waiting to pounce on them. Something was wrong, 'twas manifest, for doubtless each had done his best to save his jewel from arrest. 'Tis plain to anyone of sense they lacked some adequate defence to rout the foe and drive him hence. Well, Gael forgets that Godric Crovan was driven off twice before his third time lucky. Our warlike Dane, astute and keen, soon learned to read the lines between, perceived how foolish they'd been, and quickly chose from the more waxy of Mannin stars a trim galaxy, and styled this band the Taxiaxi. So, some dreadful rhyming going on here. But anyway, that's where are we? But now these ancient yeas and nays, to suit our modern stylish ways, are styled the 24 Ks. Then, with these men of good report, he quickly formed a Tynwald court, and aired his views after this sort. Ye men of Mannin, list, ahem, to hold secure our island gem, we'll build a fortress on the stem. With this good limestone just to hand, we have the means at our command, both time and foeman to withstand. Sé castell ta sin géirí dóta bhain cheise, imi rád, fudí an léibeg albanach coraliad dun. Nis eis me bhain cheise dúirt an dunne, hug go léibeg albanach dun a bhain, chamailiam gul hug a ríis fudí de bías corri. Imi rád dóta bhain cheise, cat de mai de cor dun sha gingin away, gin martam I ginstut. Van dunne gennach den viel jaaste is njauwarltach, as doet rischen heen, chanelle en rid kaarte jinno. Ni ai shen haie, maar so tre henke gus tjauna mare, van ustje djur gorm as gorm dorge, as lie as tju, as gerawe glas as bui maar bij rai. As weinig jadu en shen as doet hij, O gunje, me vis dunje touw, na liebeg albenacht na mare brauw, emmers te wen as burrig is, vis giri shen nog wel me wish. Nishesh, kiddet giri, doet de liebeg albenach. And with the launch of Laura Roll's book Fiddle Reach for intermediate to advanced players, building on the work of fiddle for beginners to grade 3, it seemed an opportune time to hear Laura herself on fiddle, accompanied there by Dave.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Sure dat station en asjon Radio Vanning als kaartnes sé Claare na Gael vis verklaasjen. Mish Robert Kutin Carswell, Robert de Karslag.
Ever heard tell of our Bobby Bob?
Oh, dort en dinje is lie aglet. Te giri beg ons casual moer clai. Emi rod de valia, tina shadow hanna roshen doris dort de niebeg albanach. Eis haien dinje en red tai, morbe shilten, ach tre henke gesen, ons shen van shadow ons in a jay wen casual moer clai, as van ben jeseg en the shadow na Grecian, as cheek als jach on. Maar zo gauwe lauwers doortie, ligt een golstjag aan. Zijn highest jag on Mary, as onze gastel we haalje moe les pemed as marmer, as we immer die charventen on, ren li jailad through dorsen moera, as van a corridor en jashinet les tapesh, as een schemeren les keren as boer as as kein leren banglenach as glonne christel, we krochen noes van zielen, as ons zuljen schemeren we braden leer. As van a boer ledden de wie mai as de fien share, son pecher wie we giriad. Thus spake the monarch, and ere long had reared a castle, stout and strong, to live through ages, ever young. Well, there may have been a wooden fortification here to guard the mouth of the Silver Burn, which would later have been replaced with the central square stone tower of the keep with its inner courtyard. However, the stone keep may date as early as the time of King Godred II, or his successor Reginald I, in about the 1180 or 1190s, and so that would be 100 years after Godred Crovan himself. It could have been from the time of the final king of the dynasty of Godred Crovan, Magnus II, which would be about 180 years after Godred himself, at the end of that dynasty. King Magnus is recorded in the chronicles of the kings of Man in the Isles as dying in Castle Rushen in 1265. So William Gell is being anachronistic, giving himself an artist's license here with his thought of Godred Crovan or King Orry ordering the building of a limestone castle between his successful invasion 1079 and his death in 1095. In Unchryniach's Celtic Myths and Legends concert, I mentioned Annwn, the Welsh otherworld. Here in Claare na Gael, we've heard the title track from an album by Mary Matthias, which is called Annwn. And I thought we'd revisit that now.
Gosai, dros y dŵr mae'r nos yn cau, mae'r creaduriaid yn agosau. Mi ddaw'r coed fel cysgod ar ei pen, a'r cadno yn edrych a'i lygaid i'r nen. Mae curiad y drwm o dan fy nhraed, yn fwrlwm yr adur breuddwyd yn naid. O ble di nesaf gofynodd y bran, hir ysgafarnog a gollodd ei dan, ac yna mae olaeth o crwmen o las yn trawsnewid i dylluan y dechreuodd y ras. Ac mi ddaw'r nos i gau, gyrra'i chysgo drwm yn ar golau, yn y coed mi glwn a talwydd teg yn rhedeg i Annwn peg. Mae'r lleiad yn arwain I greigiau y cwm, i'r tydi, i'r dre, i'r drws yn agored ond yr hoson nhw yn lle, dros glwydd o hyd yn nhw'n dyma sgreu awe.
Mae gennyf efo'r nefni a ganddo Pedyr Trod a Pedr arian o dannau Pedyr Trod. Yr hynna yn bydambian ys tirau ben wen, yr hynna yn gennyf yn cynnig dwy'n o'i ben.
Ac fydd awr yn si gael, gyda ysgod rwmond ar golau yn y corff mi glwn a tywydd teg yn rhedeg I anw'n peth. Fydd awr yn si gael, gyda ysgod rwmond ar golau yn y corff mi glwn a tywydd teg yn rhedeg I anw'n peth. Ac fydd awr yn si gael, gyda ysgod rwmond ar golau yn y coed mi glwn a tywydd teg yn rhedeg I anw'n peth. Dros y dŵr mae'r nos yn cau, mae'r creaduriaid yn agosau. Dros y dŵr mae'r nos yn cau, mae'r creaduriaid yn agosau.
Welsh singer Mary Mathias and the title track from her album Annwn. Annwn is the Welsh Otherworld. And there is a Welsh Otherworld going on at the moment, of course. It's the week of yr Eisteddfod Genedlaethol being held this year in Wrexham. And so I'll be watching that on Channel 4 during the week. But of course, also yesterday I was watching the Bagadoo in Lorient, not unfortunately taking part in the second round of the championship this year. Unfortunately, Bodadega Sonerion, who arranged that, have run out of cash and they couldn't afford to hold it. So they had the Trophée Polymongeré instead, and all the Bagadoo of the Premier class turned up, and they just played things to please the audience in the stadium, the Parc de Moustoir, and the audience actually made a vote, and it was the Bagad Millenarion from Vannes who got the vote on the day. And this morning, in fact, was the Grand Parade from the Festival Anti-Celtic de Lorient. So two things to be watching out for on the week. As Chowchulu Jane Chastil va close stable moors on Kabil as on Mes, as Carrigan Jane Hind Share. Come a shen va ger a storm a moor on, as sailen a blechen as les bilgen mes brow on. As we close ginnel was sledden ye wiel el urage, les fai as dow as kiri, as de chuljurit na yai od de krieg oil fordiach. Nishesh doort de ben hesje, na wel shaw ellen. O te doorten dunje, de jinneach tannach den on, fodwich bege onze gastel stome shaw, as be jint boeiach de mai. Nimmage feathen maag me gewoon shen door de wen hesje. Eder een degre, nim Gael Veen. Sen hired de lai. A morre gain van wen hesje na doucht hoyacht, kaart eg brisjen lai. As jichi maag as honniki van liabiek en cheer eilen van a lai oljume geert. Herawen dunje cor Gael de, maar so huggy brodde saljadi lesjen oljenek. William Gell now addresses the development of Castle Rushen through the years. Again the centuries rolled away. Yet stood the fortress, strong and grey, and showed no symptoms of decay. In sooth, it had the stronger grown, for some who occupied the throne had added something of their own. While kings went down like tumbling skittle, it gained in strength little by little, with here a jot and there a tittle. And thus it stood and stands, forsooth, nigh emblematic of the truth, a vision of perpetual youth. Now, reader, while we stand outside, mark how these towers in stately pride the ravages of time defied. Of outer works observe the traces, this fragment of the ancient glacis, which checked the foe's too ardent paces. Well, not glacis, but glacis, or glacis, and it's an artificial slope up to the walls of a castle. It was constructed about 1540 to make it difficult for besiegers to get one of the newly developed siege cannon up for a point-blank shot at the walls. Now, this is a widely travelled song about eggs and marrowbones to make your owl man blind, in an Irish version, Tripping It Up to Nancy, sung by Ciarán Cooney from County Offaly.
Oh, there's been a woman in our town, a woman you ought know well. She dearly loved her husband and another man twice as well. Oh, with me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, tip a Finnegan wall. With me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, we're tipping it up to Nancy. She went down to the chemist shop, some remedies to buy. Have you anything in your chemist shop to make me old man blind? Oh, with me right, Finnegan Erie, oh, me tip a Finnegan wall. With me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, tipping it up to Nancy. Before he has the last one sucked, he won't see you at all. Oh, with me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, tip a Finnegan wall. With me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, tipping it up to Nancy. She gave him eggs and marrowbones and made him suck them all. Before he had the last one sucked, he couldn't see her at all. Oh, with me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, me tip Finnegan wall. With me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, we're tipping it up to Nancy. World I cannot see, here I cannot stay. I drown myself, come on, says she, and I'll show you the way. The with me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, tip a Finnegan wall. With me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, tipping it up to Nancy. She led him to the river, she led him to the brim, but slying up of Martin, it was him that shoved her in. Oh, with me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, me tip Finnegan wall. With me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, we're tipping it up to Nancy. Finnegan Erie, oh, tip a Finnegan wall. With me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, tipping it up to Nancy. Oh, Martin, dear Martin, don't leave me behind. Shut up, I at you silly old fool. You know me poor Martin's blind. Oh, with me right, Finnegan Erie, oh, tip Finnegan wall. With me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, we're tipping it up to Nancy. Is me own. I wish that each and every man would come and claim his own. Oh, with me right, Finnegan Erie, oh, me tip Finnegan wall. With me right to Finnegan Erie, oh, we're tipping it up to Nancy.
Ciarán Cooney and Tripping It Up to Nancy. Dúirteis, mar rinne sheise, sús leatas ginnach gin maach as an oniag shen. Gich. Gin nach smullion de bergje nach een rie harische kledden cheer show. En mi rood niskus de yeast as instead de ballion vein and regen. The attacker then, on coming to this glacis, when he would fain the ramparts vault, obliged to ground his arms and halt, and feel himself somewhat at fault, while those besieged the ramparts hold. That well-devised defence of old, to keep the wolf outside the fold. Each angle had its snug redoubt, whence troop troops the attacking force could rout, alas, now all but one snuffed out. Well, in fact, that's one of the 3 towers originally built along the glacis. There's only one remaining.
Cassé da prison de vie, Ned Lura, cassé da prison de vie, Ned.
As Nistashna Jitkus Jera and Claare stand by to go for Chris Pearson bringing you 2 hours of the best in chill-out music for your Sunday evening live from the Meta Lounge in the Sunset City of Peel. That's from 7 to 9, and at 9 Judith Lay brings you Sundown. Claare Gael comes to a close with music from a Breton band who were in Peel for Cruniach a year or 2 ago, and 3D pop with a blend of Breton traditional and cool jazz trumpet. Ach, marwa mi grais eich hier show, and so until the next time, this is Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert de Carslach.
Old Bobby Bob.
Wishing you a very good night. Leave I'm a chriort, as duts my year and share.